What's up, summoners, and welcome to second episode of Getting Better of League of Legends. In this tutorial we'll be going in depth for solo queue mechanics. As you can see from the table of contents, we'll be going first in the setup section, then champion select info, after that laning and in-game mechanics, and lastly final words, including the all tips and tricks I can give you, not to forget the credits at the end. So first let's head up to the setup. Before you even want to start doing solo queue, it is good to fulfill the conditions below. First, make sure you have at least 4 champions for each role: AD carry, AP carry, jungle, support and top lane. Next, have optimized runes for each role. And lastly, set beforehand or after you pick your champion best masteries available. If you have problems setting up the conditions above, it is wise to check the guide from solomid.net for example. I will add the links into the description. So let's move on to the champion select section next. First of all, try to discuss with the team which role they want to play and what do you want to play. And right off the bat, do not give negative aura to your teammates by acting like a child and giving up stupid calls like "me mid or AFK", because it will make them less motivated to play with you. And as for the bans and picks go, see what they are picking and what is your team is picking, and just wait patiently for your turn and say what you play. If someone is begging for a certain role, try to ask him to pick something else, or just being nice to him and give that role what you wanted to play, as it will motivate him more and his gameplay more. And as for counterpicking goes, do not counterpick a certain champion if you don't know how to play that champion. Instead, play something you're better at, or let someone of your team go and rape that lane for better success. And finally, if they are acting stupid and won't listen to you or talk foreign language for example, it is just better to ignore them totally and focus your own gameplay instead. And now let's move on to the in-game mechanics. First of all, the laning, each lane acts differently and you need to go with the situation given, meaning that you have to take first of all your own lane and opponent lane into consideration, and then other lanes plus jungle. Let me explain the top lane first. As will the lane goes, the junglers will be most aggressive in top lane most of the time, as you need to be aware of ganks while dealing with your opponent at the same time. Also, another good thing to understand is early drakes. Whether you plan to go there or not, if you see all of your enemies gathering for drake and you still being at top, it is wise to either follow there, or if you can't make it in time, just push the turret down. Moving on to the mid lane, where the mages duel most of the time. Mid lane is the lane which gets the biggest advantage early on. Same thing here goes to agree as with the top lane. The dragon events and jungle ganks which you need to be aware of. Also, getting off the second blue buff from your jungle is very important for better lane success, as it will provide better farming and pressure for your enemy. And next we have bot lane, which video footage you've seen in this clip the most. As it will be 2 versus 2, it is going to be most of the time farm fest, which AD will get more farm and items. And for this method there are support role invented to help the ally AD and rest of the team later in teamfights. Especially in solo queue, it is good to negotiate with your teammate in this lane, because it will provide better synergy together and success overall. And last but not least, the jungle. In solo queue, jungle has a huge effect on early game and can dominate it with good ganks, meaning that if one of the lanes goes bad and you're able to babysit it thanks to the pressure from jungle, it will provide better success for the team. And also take the enemy jungler into account, as you can get counter jungle by him or counter jungle him, and being aware of not getting counter gank in middle of a gank situation. Now let's talk about items. Which items are most effective in this game? Well, it depends pretty much on your team and enemy team, and of course your lane you are up against. For example, you're playing Orianna against LeBlanc in mid, and you will get owned pretty much. So what will you buy? In order to survive more when you're at a disadvantage, you need to get more survivability even for damage dealer champion, or you will die even more often. As for the quote says, you don't do damage if you are dead, rather than being more tanky and sticking in that lane and team fights longer? Or what about if the situation is opposite, that you are the one dominating the lane? Well, still getting sustain is never a bad idea, and according to your playstyle whether you want to prioritize more damage or more survivability. With that example I just said, I want to point out that you should never build the same way each game, because it is just the fact that sometimes sustain comes after damage and grants you better presence in game. Not forgetting if the other enemy's lane is fed and you are required to get sustain because his lane and not because of your own lane. But before we head into the tips and tricks, I want to talk about the in-game objectives first. These 8 sections are the things you will doing pretty much in every ranked game. The thing is that you need to understand and prioritize which objective is best to do at each point. For example, when it's better to farm than going for kill, when to recall and get some items, or when it's good to start pushing the lane or even freeze it. To get the objectives done right at right order, it's about trial and error and requires many games to do it correctly. And now let's move on to the 4th step, final words. In this section I'll try to give all the little details I haven't tell you yet that could improve your solo queue success. First of all, do not queue if you are in bad mood, as it will affect other players pretty easily. Secondly, listen some good relaxing music that will relax your mind when you're going solo queue. Third, try to communicate with your teammates as much as you can to get better touch with them. And fourth, as for the recent patch, they removed this elo loss for leaving in champion select. Do this if you're regretting or don't want to play, rather than play bad and give negative impression to the other players. However, if you leave the game, you cannot queue into another game for 30 minutes, and it will probably increase more if done often. Champion select tips. First of all, ban carefully. Ask for teammates if they want a certain pick, or try by forcing a certain champion ban to get the champion you want. Secondly, when asking for swap, make sure they have the champion that you want to get. And third, never rely 1 or 2 champions. Always get a backup pick because they might have banned or took your wanted picks. And fourth thing I like to mention is that counter picking might not be the best option every time. For example, you will provide better in teamfights by getting Morgana mid, as you have Amumu jungler for AoE damage, rather than picking LeBlanc who prioritizes in single target output. And now for some in-game tips. First of all, ask for the jungler as early as you can if he could gank your lane as soon as possible, whether you need help or lane pressure. Secondly, don't focus on poking too much the enemy, as creeps provide more in early game. Third, do not counter jungle if you are not aware of where enemy jungle or laners might be. And fourth, don't give up if your team is doing bad early, as the teamfights or dragon events can turn the tides of the game pretty easily. Never give up if there's even a little bit chance for victory. Be optimistic. In-game tricks. First, warding. Ward the key spots in game for scouting, to prevent ganks and enemy dragon baron takeovers. Second, baiting. Playing flawlessly in a purpose and letting enemy try to kill you, you can turn the tides with counter ganks to get his ass kicked. And third, freezing the lane. Sometimes it is good to freeze lane by not letting minions to get forward, because it could deny your carry's creep score or for better gank positioning. And final words for you. Solo queue is about trial and error. By playing more and more you will get the basics, tips and tricks right and will improve as a player. Luck is also one factor. You might get horrible attitude and skilled players for your team, as the enemy will get better. It is being proved that sometimes it is just not possible to win, but still never give up. As for the League of Legends community goes, it is more disgusting as lower as elo you go. If the negative aura comes by and you cannot do anything about it, just try to ignore them and do your best not forget to report them if they're playing against the rules. And that's it about my second episode of Getting Better at League of Legends. Since the solo queue topic is quite huge to discuss, there might be something I forgot to mention. If you have anything to ask for, do it in the comments section below. And if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel for more videos. I also have a Facebook fan page and on.3v live stream channel available, which links I'll put down below as well. My name is Hepodix and have a good faith and luck in solo queue.